Why should you listen to me? Well, like I said, I made every mistake you can make in life. Everyone. I shouldn't say that. I have so many more mistakes to make. It's all I do. I just fell forward. And like I said in my introductory, I am a curious person. And I did everything that I'm not supposed to do just to find out why. And doing that led me to become a drug addict in the beginning, and then I quit that, but I ended up being a drunk because that's legal, why not? And then I ended up becoming a blackout drunk, and I ended up in prison. I ended up in rehab multiple times, too many times. Self-help groups, AA, NA, you name it, I did it. I tried help, I tried everything, I just kept screwing up. But I didn't give up. And like everybody, I turned 30. And apparently there's this thing that happens when we're 30. I don't know what it is about 30. But we're not getting any younger. And it's time to get our crap together. Let's roll with this. If I'm going to make this existence, I'm going to make the best of my existence. And at the time, I was just fed up with society. I really was. And we all know what I'm saying right now. We feel it. We know it. Society is fake. People are fake. Everybody's the same. Everybody wants to be the same. Everybody wants to be accepted with everybody else. Everybody's saying commercials as jokes. And that's great. I mean, be an advertising campaign. Why not? And it wasn't for me. So I said, I'm going to give myself 2 years. I'm going to lock myself in a room. I'm not coming out. I'm going to find value and meaning in life. I need more. I need substance. And if I can't, I'm just going to end it all. I'm done. I don't want to live in a world that is this bad. So like everybody, I was like, you know what I want to do? Maybe the meaning is just we need to make lots of money. So like everybody who thinks they're going to make large sums of money, I thought, why not focus on Silicon Valley? I mean, that's the simplest way to make money. You got to come up with some stupid idea, type in some code into a computer, and next thing you know, somebody comes along and buys your app, your program, whatever you have, and you make $1 billion. The wealth, luxury, you have everything, you have money, you have power, you have everything. And so I started reading all these books about it, and I started noticing that there was this trend that I noticed that was, it's called the scientific process. We learned this in school. What we do is we have a goal, and then we take two things, we mix them together, and then we test it, and we see if we get to our goal. And if we fail, we go and say, okay, what went wrong? And then usually in this process, almost every time in this process, we'll find some new bit of information, and then we can build off of that. So I started using this process for everything in my life. My parents do real estate, and if it wasn't for President Trump, back in the 80s they started, and he came up with the art of the deal and everything else. My dad was like, you know what, I want to get into real estate. He used to work for car manufacturing, doing the steel things and the frames. And he got into real estate. It was a downturn market, and anyway, if it wasn't for Trump, he never would have got into that, and I ended up growing up around real estate. Never got into it. The typical, I'm not going to be my own father. I don't want to be him. I want to pave my own path. And so while I'm hiding out in my room learning all this stuff, I would go out and I would do jobs for my parents, and they do flips. So basically a flip, as everybody knows, you just basically buy a crappy house, you rip out all the bad crap, and you start building it up from new. And normally this process takes about 2 months, but I decided to use this scientific process that I used to make things go more efficient, easier. So I ended up speeding up the process that I cut half the time away. I went, this is amazing. This is so effective. I've never learned anything that is this powerful. So I started using this thing in every part of my life. I used it for all the problems that I faced with drinking. So many things that we have that are hang-ups, or mental hang-ups. And I'm going to teach you how to deal with that. And I learned so much. I learned this entire process that I'm going to teach you by this little tool. What I did was I ended up starting a new business. And at this time, I had learned a whole bunch of stuff through trying and failing with the scientific process through other businesses. And I learned that I want to be in parts. I want to sell parts. I want something that is replaced, it's cheap, and people are always buying it. I want that. That's where I want to be. But I want to solve a pain that people have. So I learned market cycles, and I learned that in early adopters, people are dealing with painful things that normal people won't deal with because they don't have the time, they don't want to do the hassle. So I learned that I learned about vaping, I learned where it was in the market cycle, and I knew I wanted to figure out a product in this market. The time was then to roll with whatever it is. So I learned everything I could about it. That was the first thing I did. And then I started noticing about these coils. You had to make your own coils. There was no screw-in already made coils. There was no pre-built coils made. So I went, at a time, people were taking a drill bit for the size, and then you have to take this really thin wire made of Kanthal, which is the same stuff that glows right in your toaster. So it's really thin, and you got to make it real tight, perfect, all real tight and perfect. And if you don't, you'll end up getting parts of the coil stick out further, and it'll burn the cotton. And if you burn the cotton, you end up you might as well just smoke. It's healthier. And I realized that this was a pain, and I realized this was something that needed to be made. I knew that a factory could have this machine made and it would be perfect every time, and that I could get them done in China. I tried in the USA first, but to get somebody to spin up a factory to make these out that I wasn't going to deal with, because I didn't want to do the work. I learned that if you're going to make money, you're limited by your hands. It's probably the worst thing to say right now, but that's where I was at in my head. Wealth is limited by your hands. So everything had to be done externally. So I turned to China, and it took me 4 months to convince a factory to do this. I didn't give up. I knew if I gave up, somebody else was going to do it. I wanted to be that person, that first guy to do it. And I kept hearing no. Hundreds of times from factories all over, no, 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 no. There's no money. It's too easy. People are doing it. It's not worth it. I heard it. I would tell people around me, my friends, I was trying to do this. They would say, you'd have to sell so many to make any money. It's just not worth it. It's like, you guys just don't see it. How are you not seeing this? But I finally got it. And my initial investment after all of the time that I spent was $75. I needed to pay shipping. I learned the Amazon listing. I put an Amazon listing up, and a total $100. I learned to fail fast, fail cheap. And I had this part that lasts 2 to 3 days, depending on how heavy a vapor somebody was, and it had to get replaced. And it was at a $10 mark, which is where I wanted to keep the product. And I put it up on Amazon. I did no marketing, nothing. I wanted the product to sell on its own. I needed to know. I wanted to start from zero. And it started to sell slowly. One day it was 1 sale, and then next day it was 3, and it just kept going up, and it kept exponentially growing. And then I started noticing people were talking about the product in forums, and early adopters are so mean. I mean, it's a rite of passage to learn something new, and it's not right that somebody comes along and removes the learning curve. But people like me have to come along and remove the learning curve for the market to grow. I knew that. So I took the hit, I took the hate, but I was still growing in sales despite the hate that I got. And my goal was, I had a goal in my head. I wanted to move to Vegas. I don't drink, so my goal was to move to Vegas. In a way, I was testing myself, because it's like Sin City, you know? But at the same time, I know I love Vegas because there's so many things to do. And I got tired of sitting in my room. I wanted to be able to, at 2 in the morning, go out and get something to eat without everything being closed. I wanted to have entertainment. I always wanted a stream of entertainment to visit, not just the local movie theater or the bowling alley or whatever. I wanted just to go out and walk around, even just to walk around casinos like malls or something. I just wanted to, something to do, excuse me. So that was my goal. I wanted to move to Vegas, and I did it. It took me a year from $100, and this is rude to talk about, I know, but I just want to prove how truthful what I'm saying is. I started off with $100, and I turned that in product sales. It's not total sales, total money that I made, but I turned that money into $125,000 in sales from $100, and I used it from the knowledge of this system that I'm going to teach you how to do. This is not really a get-rich-quick scheme. It is in a way, but it's not. I don't want you to think that learning the stuff is going to make your life easy, because life's not easy. That's not what life is. But then the FDA came along and they regulated vaping. They said that vaping is the same as smoking, which it's not. And then they said that my product, this piece of little metal, there's no tobacco in it, contained a green leafy substance containing to the congressional definition of what tobacco is defined as. But the FDA still pushed it through. Yay, Obama. And I lost it. I spun out. I lost everything. I quit. I moved back home. I was making $30,000 a month, and I was trying to blow it up to even bigger. But at the time, I was just spinning out in my head. I was scared. I was trying to beat these regulations, and I lost everything. And I didn't lose everything this time by being stupid, by getting drunk and doing drugs, or anything stupid like that. I spun out because I couldn't control my emotions. I didn't know that at the time. So I got back home and I had a new rule. I needed to figure out a new rule, because that's everything I did since I quit drinking. That was at the time that I moved home, and I at this point in the story, it was 6 years after I quit drinking. Now it's been 8 years. So I learned about Pizzagate. This is a great distraction. I needed to figure out a new role, but I couldn't figure it out. It was a couple of months, and I had no idea. None whatsoever. I had no idea where I was going. No idea what to do. So I distracted myself with Pizzagate. And I am a conspiracy theorist, only in that I follow facts, and I can tell that the Illuminati, New World Order, Deep State, whatever you want to call it, they want us enslaved. They want us... They have this rule over society that they want. They want to remove our freedoms. That much was 100% clear to me. However, the dark cults, crap, the Satanism, whatever, I couldn't verify that. So I never got into it. Woohoo, that's kooky. But Pizzagate happened, and I'm reading these emails, and I literally had the goal of trying to debunk this, because this, like I said, truth is not what we want to hear. And that is truth that we don't want to know about. We don't want to believe that's been going on our whole lives, that these people are doing these things to our children. So I started thinking about this, and I started wondering about these people. What are they doing? I mean, they got families. They're congressional. They're always at these public events, these fundraisers. They're in Congress. They're pushing these things. They're doing all this stuff. And at the same time, there's this third thing they're doing, and they're deep, deep, deep into it. And it's all dark.